Today, we're diving into 3 haunting last messages from people who knew they weren't going to make it. These are not just stories, they are the final words of people trapped in the worst moments of their lives. But before we get into that, if you're someone who loves bizarre, creepy, and downright terrifying real-life tales told like a cinematic mystery, you've landed in the right place. We post 2 to 4 times a week, sometimes more. So, if that sounds good to you, hit that like button so hard it turns into candle wax, and smash subscribe with all notifications on. Now, let's get into today's stories. They were prisoners of war, used as human shields, then slaughtered when their captors thought help was coming. In December 1941, everyone remembers Pearl Harbor, but almost no one talks about what happened just hours later on a lonely island in the middle of the Pacific. Wake Island, a tiny speck of coral and sand surrounded by miles of open ocean, was the site of one of the darkest war crimes you've never heard of. After a brutal assault, Japanese forces overtook the island. Most American personnel were shipped off to prisoner camps across Asia, but 98 of them were forced to stay behind and build fortifications for their captors for 2 years. Those 98 prisoners worked under harsh, dehumanizing conditions. Then, on October 5th, 1943, after a heavy US bombing raid, the Japanese commander panicked. Believing an invasion was about to begin, he gave a horrifying order: execute the remaining prisoners, blindfolded and lined up on the beach. The men were gunned down, but one of them survived. He hid in the chaos and later returned to the site, where he carved a chilling message into the rock. 98 USPW, the 5th of October, 43. He included himself in the number, knowing full well he wouldn't survive the day. He was caught just hours later and executed. The man's name was never confirmed. The message still exists today, etched in stone. A final act of resistance, bravery, and memory. It's known as 98 Rock, the Japanese commander. He was hanged for war crimes after the war. But that unnamed soldier's message is what history remembered. They surfaced, expecting to see their boat. Instead, they saw only endless sea. In 1998, Tom and Eileen Lonergan were Peace Corps volunteers, wrapping up 2 years of service in the Pacific. Before heading home to the US, they took one last detour, a dive trip off the coast of Australia. The couple boarded a boat with 24 other divers to explore the Great Barrier Reef. Everything seemed fine. They dove in, swam among the coral, and when the group resurfaced, the captain did a head count, turned the boat around, and left. No one realized Tom and Eileen weren't on board. Their wallets, passports, and clothes were still in the cabin, but no one checked. It wasn't until 48 hours later that someone noticed. By then, the Lonergans were long gone. They had no food, no water, surrounded by sharks. 1 month later, Eileen's wetsuit washed ashore. Several pieces of diving gear turned up after that, including a waterproof message slate. On it, a plea to anyone who can help us. We've been abandoned. Please, help us. before we die." They survived for at least 24 hours, but after that, no one knows. Some say sharks got them. Others believe they succumbed to the elements. But the ocean, it never gave them back. He followed the sound of water, believing it would save him. Instead, it led him to his grave. Bryce Gilles was a wilderness expert, an Eagle Scout, and a Peace Corps volunteer. He was 20 years old when he set out to hike one of the Grand Canyon's most dangerous trails, the Deer Creek and the Thunder River Loop, alone. It was July, peak summer, no shade, no permit. No one knew his exact route, but Bryce believed he could handle it. He reached a dry plateau and camped overnight under the stars. The next morning, he descended into a blistering hot canyon. He was looking for water and thought he heard it, but the sound was deceptive, bouncing off the canyon walls. He walked in the wrong direction for hours. When he realized his mistake, he was dehydrated, out of food, and miles off course. Following survival training, he dropped his heavy gear and continued with just water and a flashlight. He descended down steep rock spills, hoping to reach the Colorado River. Finally, he arrived at a ledge. He could see the river just a half-mile below. But the only way to get there was a near-vertical 80-foot cliff. He was trapped. 6 days later, search crews found his body on that ledge. In his hand was a BlackBerry phone, dead, but containing one final note. "Life is good, whether it's long or short. I just hope they have water wherever I'm going." That last line still haunts the canyon. So, what would you write if you knew it was your final message? Let me know in the comments. And as always, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on all notifications so you never miss a new story. Stay strange, and I'll see you in the next one.